My name is Joshua Gibson, and you are listening to the Philosophical Weightlifting Podcast, a show dedicated to promoting a message of critical thinking as it pertains to strength training, nutrition, and well-being. This is done through interviews with experts, high-level athletes, coaches, and people heavily involved in strength sports and athletic development. Pull up a chair, grab a coffee, and let's get on to today's podcast. Hello and welcome to the Philosophical Weightlifting Podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Gibson, and I'm joined today by one of the, I would say, one of the best weightlifters in Canada. And kind of surprisingly, I remember reaching out to him a long time ago, it seems like, and trying to get him on the podcast. And then just recently, I was kind of keeping up to speed with his lifting um, at Pan Am's, and I was like, oh yeah, I should really reach back out because we just had Meredith Allwine on the podcast. She also competed at Pan Am's and won. So that's episode 194, I believe. So if you haven't listened to that, I would go listen to the podcast with Meredith after this, just for a little more context around Pan Am's. But today's guest is Alex Bellemarre, one of the strongest 89 kilo weightlifters I've had the pleasure of speaking to. Alex, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. That's a very nice compliments that you told about me. Thank you.
Yeah. Your lifting is incredibly impressive. I think I was just like, I don't really scroll through Instagram, but videos will pop up when I open the app, and your 201 kilo behind the neck split jerk popped up. And I was like, holy shit, like that's incredibly impressive. So maybe we can actually kind of start by digging into Pan Am's, how that went,
Yeah,
how your performance was, and what you thought about it.
yeah. We can go. We can start there. I did a PR at Snatch. I did 166, which like gave me the silver. And I was going at Pan Am's to get a medal. I think it was my sixth Pan Am, something like that. And I think my worst ranking was like eighth, but like I think I did like three or four fourth place. So I was like kind of tired of being fourth. And so I was going this year, especially with the guy from Dominican Republic who popped at Worlds, who's usually like the top three was kind of locked right now with the Venezuelan guy, the Colombian, and the guy from Dominican Republic. But since he popped, I was like, oh my God, this is my chance to finally get a medal at Pan Am's. So I was going in the mentality of I'm going for a medal. So when I did my 166 and I PR, it was like, yeah, finally I've got at least one medal. Now let's go into the clean and jerk. Like since my snatch is like my strength, I'd say, in competition, but my clean and jerk is always, it's getting better with time, and like I'm getting stronger with the years, but it's never as good as my snatch. So I was like very pumped to go into my clean and jerk, and finally I did not do that good at clean and jerk. Like I missed my second and my third, which would have gave me, I think, bronze at clean and jerk and silver at total. But I still like finished fourth at clean and jerk and third at total. So I was still happy to finally get my medal at clean and jerk at total at the Pan Am level. But yeah, it was really nice. It was really nice too to finally go into the clean and jerk and not being scared, not being like tired or anything. Like I did such a good preparation for Pan Am's that it was just like technical, like the way I missed my two clean and jerks. But like I was happy just to, okay, I know now what to do to get better. It's not just like I was scared and it sucks to go into a movement and being scared and being fatigued. Like, so at least that's a good point in the clean and jerk side. But yeah, still, it was a really good competition. And I almost, like, if I would have done one of my two clean and jerk that I missed, I would have done like a 360 total, which is like a very big benchmark. But I guess it's going to be for either nationals, which is like in 4 weeks, or for Cuba, which is like the Grand Prix, and it's like mid-June, I think. So at least I have other chances to go and do my 360 or more total.
Yeah, which is an absolutely massive total, by the way. And I think,
Thanks.
you talk about making a 166 snatch, and I have watched the video now countless times, and it looks like such a great lift. It's so well timed and looks effortless. It looks like you had 170 in the tank. when you were
Yeah.
when you were warming up, right? Like maybe we can even kind of start with your preparation, but how was your prep for Pan Ams so that you were able to, PR your snatch in such a what looked like an effortless fashion? I'm sure it didn't feel effortless, but it looked like it. This podcast is brought to you by Onyx Weightlifting Co. I've been very selective about finding sponsors for the show, but after much deliberation, in conversation with Chris and Danny, the co-owner and founder, we decided that Onyx is beyond a great fit to support this podcast. Onyx is a brand built on providing the strongest and most comfortable straps, wraps, belts, and apparel to the weightlifting community, with the leather products handcrafted by the same barbell calloused hands that you have. Make sure you pick up something today at onyxstraps.com using the code PHILWL for 10% off of your purchase. That is onyxstraps.com, ONYX straps.com, using the code PHILWL for 10% off of your purchase. And thanks as always for supporting the show.
My preparation like has been almost the same since I'd say 2019 ish. Since I I've been working with my last coach, we really did a good job of just like getting my preparation stable and just getting confident going into the competition. So right now I'd say like the main frame is the same as like 2019 2020-ish, like beginning of 2020. So like I'm doing my warm up so many times. Like I think
Right.
I'd say between 5 and 8 times I do my warm ups in the like 3 weeks before the
Wow.
competitions. So like it's almost like Monday we do snatch clean jerk warm up. Wednesday we do snatch clean jerk warm up. Friday, so every time every week we go to the same bar. So that is why like I go into the competition, especially at snatch, because I feel like clean and jerk you have to go into clean and jerk and just like I want to lift that and just like pump it up. For
Yeah.
snatch, you have to have the right feelings, because if the snatch feels heavy starting from the
Yeah.
ground, there's a very high chance you're just gonna mess up the pool or just not go under. So you really have to have good feelings, and I think that's why I'm so consistent at snatch. I just like repeat the movements so much, and I train quite a lot. So I just go through the snatch again and again and again. So until it's like I don't know if you can say the quote. I'm not sure if I remember it correctly, but like the difference between an amateur and a professional is that an amateur does it until he has it right, and a professional does it until he can't have it wrong. So I feel
Oh,
I'm going in this mentality at snatch. Like I don't want to just hit
wow.
like my opener once and be like, okay, that's good. I want to do my snatch until like I cannot miss my opener. So
Yeah.
that's my mentality going into a competition. And same for clean and jerk. It's harder at clean and jerk because it is more tiring. Like you cannot do a peak at clean and jerk like 3 times a week. At least I can't. So
Yeah.
at snatch, I have so much fuel in the tank with the volume, the load that I put on my body going into a competition. But at clean and jerk, like I can peak like once a week, maybe twice if I'm very in a very very good shape. So it's kind of harder to get all of the things together, but I feel like I'm getting there slowly.
Yeah, and going into it, you mentioned, literally practicing your warm-ups 8 times, right?
Yeah.
In the lead up. When you got to the venue and you wade in and you're ready to go and you start warming up, how did it feel? Was it something that's like, oh, this feels just like it did in training? This feels even better, or it's like, it feels kind of off. Let me see if I can find a rhythm. So when you started your warm-ups, as you're getting ready for that 166, do you remember how you felt?
It felt kind of okay, which is weird because like I remember the plan was to do 57, 157, 162, and you either go for 166 or 167. And I felt like my 157, 162 wasn't quite as good as I would like to. So that's
Yeah.
why I went to 66 instead of 67. So it
Yeah.
didn't feel like extraordinarily good, but it felt okay. that is the good point of doing like your warm up so many times. Like if you do your warm up like let's say 8 times, there's gonna be one time where you feel like shit doing it.
Yeah.
There's gonna be one time where you feel like it's incredible, and there's gonna be in between all of those. So you just you do it so many times that you don't panic. Like you've been through this. You've been through this situation of my leg feel tired. My I just feel like I have too much caffeine. I have too little caffeine. Like you go through the whole spectrum of what the situation is going to be like in training. So when you arrive in competition, you just relate to whatever you did in training. So that is one of the main point with the confidence, uh, and like the just testing the situation, testing the warm up. Like that is why I'm doing it so many times before the competition. Actually,
Yeah, and I think to expand on that comment you made or that quote you gave about, beginners try to do it until they do it right, experts do it until they can't do it wrong. I
yeah.
would say that beginners do it until they can do it right, in like one context, and then experts do it so they can do it right in every context or in every situation. So like you
Yeah.
get people, you would be in the gym and it's like, okay, I did like this, like, well, this was like a perfect sequence of snatches, like my technique was sharp, I PR'd. It's like, oh, that was like the best workout I've or best training session I've ever had. And
Hmm.
then it's like, people who are at the highest level can do that in any venue, under any condition, with like any demand, fatigued, fresh, uh, with a lot of unpredictability. It's like that to me is expertise, is can you do the skill in every single different situation that you need to do it and do it at a high level at. And I think that is kind of what separates people who have like really well-rounded training from, training that's more controlled.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's like it comes back to the things you control and the things you cannot control. My dad, which was like my first coach, used to say like when I was having like not a bad day, but not like the best day in training, like before comp, he was like, "That's fine. Like, what are the statistics that everything's gonna go perfect in comp? Like,
Yeah.
what are the chances that you're gonna feel great? Everything's gonna be perfect. All the competitors are gonna do whatever we think they're gonna do. Like, it almost never happens. So it's fine. Like, if you're having like trouble, if you had trouble yesterday feeling asleep, if you feel sore, it's fine to peak in those situations, just because it might happen in competition. And especially when you start to do like international level competition, like it's just another game. It's not the same as doing provincials or regionals or like nationals, even nationals competition. Like you have to travel, you don't sleep very well because like you're very stressed. It's Pan Am Championship or it's World or it's a World Cup or it's whatever what it is. But and you don't eat the same food as you used to. Like everything is different. Like the only thing that is the same is the snatch and the clean and jerk. So you just have to focus on
Yeah.
it and try to go through the same ritual you have. So just to control whatever you can control, basically.
Yeah, and I think that's, I think generally that's what good coaches will say, is, people will say like, well, I don't know kind of what shape I'm in or how training's going. And it's like, the best thing to give you a gauge of how you're doing is ultimately like performance. And you can, think about how you're feeling or think about what's going on, think about how training has been or will be, but like ultimately where you're at is however you're performing on the day. That's like the most accurate, reliable indicator of how prepared you are. And I think
Yeah,
to have that confidence of like, well, I'll grab the bar and I'll start warming up, and I'm not going to like talk myself into a bad session, and I'm not going to like overly hype myself up and just like imagine that I'm going to PR today, if that's not
yeah,
like kind of what's in the cards. Because all you can do, as you mentioned, like the thing that is the most constant thing, it's the snatch and the clean and jerk.
hmm,
How you're going to perform, you have no clue until you start warming up. And then, you kind of get some insight, and it's like all you can do is be really deliberate, be really invested in the process and executing well. And the rest kind of like, is up to chance. I think, as
yeah.
much as we might not like to admit that. uh
It either go as because of chance, like you say, or you just reframe that and like reframe some way you think, and I think it helps you go through uh like harder things. Like the food is not the same. Oh, okay, fine. Like I have like I can have more because it's not as
Right.
calorie dense as like at home. So like my weight, and so you just have to reframe it. Like, I'm stressed. Are you stressed? Are you excited? Like, that's what I'm trying to say to myself and to other people before comp. And I don't know if people have noticed that. Maybe they're gonna notice next time. But like, I'm someone who's very nervous before comp, but instead of being like, oh, I'm stressed, I'm anxious, I'm nervous, I'm like, I'm excited. What I feel right now is that it's not nerves, it's excitement, because I'm so glad that I'm here. I'm so glad that like it's an opportunity to just like train full time and try to improve on whatever you're doing. And like, that's one thing I'm trying to constantly remember myself, like going through this Olympic qualification, is like, what is the next time in my life that people are going to give me money to develop like
Oh,
myself, to develop a skill, like, nobody's ever going to do that. Like, I give you money so that you work for me, or that you do something for me. Like, it's very, very unlikely that something like that is ever going to happen to me again, that like government give me money so that I can train, I can sleep, I can watch what I'm eating. Like, everything in my life right now is oriented towards like performance. I mean, I have other spheres because like that's just balance in my life. But like, this is my project, my goals, my competition, my travels, my trainings, my like appointment to the massage therapist. So it's insane when you think about it. Like, all lucky, or like, maybe not lucky. I don't like that word very much, but like, how insane that opportunity is, and how much like, wherever I'm gonna find it again or not in my life, I don't know. But right now, I just try to think about like, this is very, very nice that I have this opportunity to just work one skill in my life and try to see however I kind of I can lift over my head. So it's so I try to just remember myself that going through a competition, whenever you feel nervous, whenever you feel like kind of bad, because exactly like you feeling nervous, to just you feel like you have pressure on your shoulders, but it's excitement in my head. That's where
yeah.
I want to go. Sorry, I just kind of rumble out, but it's just, I'm excited to live. I'm excited to see where I'm at right now.
Yeah, it's almost like it's an honor to be in that situation so you can be nervous, right? Like most people, I would say, like, just statistically speaking, like most people don't get the opportunity to make money competing for their country.
No,
And
yeah,
you feeling nervous because you're at a world championships is like, it's almost a privilege, right? It's an honor
yeah,
to be able to feel the nerves of such a high level, high stakes competition,
hmm,
where you're representing your country, you're representing yourself, you're representing your coaches, everyone's who is invested in you. It's
yeah,
like, yeah, I should feel that way, but like I get to feel that way.
exactly,
And yeah, and
exactly,
I think that's kind of the difference is, a lot of I think what we get out of life, in the sense of like what we put into it is generally what we get out of it, but how we explain that can make such a difference. Like,
yeah,
um, I've mentioned this on a couple podcasts now, and I just usually reference it because it's relevant. But like, I've been coaching weightlifting for like 8-9 years now. I've been coaching powerlifting, and like that's been my only like real, like, I'd say, like, full-time job. And I've
hmm,
gone to school and gotten a bachelor's and master's, and I'm actually starting a doctorate program in the fall to get a PhD in basically like sports science. It's coaching and teaching studies. And
congrats, that's nice.
yeah, so I'll be a strength coach at a high school, and that'll pay for my tuition. I'll
Wow.
make a stipend, and it's like, you know it's really nerve-wracking because it's a big opportunity, and it's a lot of life change, and it's a lot of
Hmm.
work. But it's like, when else are you going to get someone who's going to kind of pay your way to accomplish or achieve
To
the biggest
study,
one of the
yeah.
biggest things
Hmm.
imaginable, right?
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I feel like people are that might be a big statement, but people are afraid to be tired. People are afraid to be nervous. People like, it's I feel like it might be normal. Like, I'm not an expert in evolution and everything, but I feel like this everything that we evolved through was just like, go. like away from the thing that makes you
Right.
nervous, to go
Yeah.
away from the pressure and all. But in nowadays, like people just avoid this and just stays in their comfort zone and everything. But I think that especially like I see that in the 20-30 range, maybe even like 20 to 40 years old range. But like it's the time to be nervous. It is the time to be tired. It is the time to just go out and do so many stuff, to
Yeah.
all the stuff that you want to do, just so that like whenever you're tired for real, you're tired for almost like nothing, I'd say, like with air quotes, but like you're getting tired more easily. Like when you're getting old, then you can enjoy being like at a cottage in the lake fishing or whatever. But
Right.
I feel like right now it's not the time for me to rest. It's not the time for me to feel peaceful and never stress and all. It is the time to build something. It is the time to go out and just do as much stuff as I can, because I know that I'm tired today, but I'm 24. Like I'm gonna sleep like 8 hours night, and tomorrow I'm gonna be just fine. So it is the time right now. I feel like to be tired, to be stressed, to achieve things. So I feel like people like trying to avoid this nowadays, but I think you should crave that because it makes you grow. It makes you achieve like things that you think you couldn't achieve. So I think that it's not something you should avoid, it's something you should crave, to be nervous and to be tired.
No, I like that a lot. I think that's a great way. That's like a great perspective to have, and I think me listening to that, the difference I think is when you decide that you're tired versus someone else decides that you're tired. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's easier to have someone decide for you, like, hey, you have to work this shift, you have to work these shifts, and you know,
Yeah.
you're committed to this job or this line of work, and you don't really want to do it, or you don't want to, you know, you don't feel like going to work or working that long or that many hours. And like, I know it's not black and white. Like, I think we're
Yeah.
kind of both talking in generalities, but like,
Mm-hmm.
you want to be the decider of like, I'm going to work to be I'm going to work to be physically exhausted today, or I'm going to work to build something today, build
Yeah.
something that's going to be built on tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And at some point I can kind of take a step back from that, have perspective, and say like, that's a really fucking cool thing that I was able to do. Like, I'm sure you looking
Yeah.
back on Pan Am's, right, and saying, you know, I got fourth a handful of years and I was kind of tired of that. So I decided to go out there and medal, right? And
Yeah.
take a medal in the snatch, take a medal in the total. And now you can
Mm-hmm.
take a step back, and after 6 Pan Ams, which is just, that's phenomenal, by the way,
Thank you.
um, come away with medals and standing on the podium. And it's like, yeah, like every single thing leading up to that was just building, slowly building. And we kind of see that. It's cool when you can see that with rankings, when you watch
Mm-hmm.
athletes go from like, you know, top 15, top 20 to like around the top 10 to like, you know, top 8, and then it's like top 5, and then it's, then they creep into third, and then maybe they win, and it's like,
Yeah.
no, no one gave that to them. Like, you watch them work their way down from one of the lowest placings over
Mm-hmm.
years to finally getting on the podium. And you can take a step back, have that perspective, and feel super grateful for it, and kind of take a breath, right? So I think that's an awesome perspective to have. And I'm sure, I don't know how long you've been weightlifting, but I'm sure you can kind of take a step back now and think about how much it's like returned on your investment into it.
Yeah. It like it's insane how like I've been weightlifting for the past, I'd say like 15 years ish. Like I'm 24. I started like around like 8, 9 years old.
Wow.
So even maybe more than that. But like the I couldn't be more grateful like for my dad to train me first into weightlifting, because it gave me so much, like character wise, just physically wise, like this discipline that the lifestyle I have right now is insane. Like it's so cool to travel all the time all around the world, and just like it's so cool. So I'm so glad that like I people show me a way and I went to that way and just like pursue something that I still don't know what it is exactly, but I'm just pursuing it until like I feel like one day I'll know that it's over. I kind of I like, do you like Rocky's movie? Might be kind of a hard like long reach, but do you like
Sure.
Rocky?
Yeah,
Like
sure.
the I think this nowadays there's like 11, I don't know, but I think the sixth one where it's like I gotta fight. Like I have this beast, I have this fire inside of me. So I feel like right now I still have this fire and this beast inside of me to just like I want to lift heavier and heavier and heavier. And I feel like one day, I hope that one day I'm just gonna have to let it go, or at least um, just split it into multiple project maybe, because it's going to
Yeah.
be hard to find something else that is as intense as weightlifting, as competing in the elite sport. But yeah, so I feel like right now I just have this thing inside of me to just like that is how I train so much. That is how I go through hard phases of training and also. But yeah,
Yeah.
that is. I don't know why I was talking about that exactly, but yeah, that's
No,
basically.
I thought it was great, and I think what you described is what I feel a lot of the time, which is it's kind of it almost feels like there it should be something different or something more, something I don't know, if, like something should change, but it's like weightlifting and for me like coaching weightlifting and coaching powerlifting and just coaching human performance or sport performance. It's, like, easy to do, like, it's easy to be invested in and want to give
Mhm.
a lot of time to and a lot of work, and I think kinda what you're describing is, like, you have this, like this hunger, right,
Yeah,
that you just want to continually improve your performance, you wanna put more weight on the bar
yeah,
and do more than you've ever done and, like, see where that limit is, and the training is hard, but it's not, like it's not it's hard, but it's not like something you don't want to do, right? It's not something
no,
you're like,
yeah.
"Oh, shit, like, I gotta fucking train again." Like, I gotta drag myself to do this again. It's like, "Oh, I get to train, I get to go out and I get to get better, and I get to, like, see where I'm at, and I get to, do things that no one else or very few people on this planet will ever do." And it
Yeah.
just happens to be in weightlifting, and, that's kind of how I feel like I get to go out and really invest myself into this area of study and this area of work and apply myself. And it just happens to be
Mhm.
weightlifting and powerlifting. I don't know why. It just kind of like spoke to me and resonated and made sense. I kind of want to rewind a little bit because you said you've
Yeah,
been weightlifting for 15 years and you started when you were like 8 or 9.
yeah.
I'd love to hear more about that. So, do you have like a family kind of lineage in weightlifting, or how'd you end up getting into it?
Not really. Like my dad did weightlifting like I think 2 years when he was at the end of his high school, and like I think it was in 2001. Like the high school coach just left the weightlifting gym, and so the like few guys that were there just try to find somebody that was still like nearby the gym and that could want to coach. So they just reached out to my dad. So my dad like took the weightlifting club like I think that was almost 15 years, like 2001 to 2016.
Yeah.
And growing up, I was like very very close. I'm still very very close with my dad, but right now we're living like 600-700 kilometers away, which is like 400 miles for the freedom meter. Uh, but yeah, so I just grew up like very very close with my dad. I was playing hockey because I'm Canadian and people have to play hockey. So I was playing hockey and I didn't like very much the sport, the team sport kind of thing. Like I didn't like the. I feel like I was too young to understand. I didn't understand that if I was putting effort, but the rest of my team wasn't, we weren't winning, and the opposite was true too. Like if I wasn't putting effort, but the rest of my team was, we were winning. So I was just like kind of, why am I doing this? Like it doesn't make sense. Then I wanted to go train with my dad to do weightlifting, and as soon as I saw that the more I trained, the more load I could put in the bar, the less I trained, the less load I could put in the bar. Like the
Yeah.
direct correlation between the two of like training versus load on the bar, that like hit me so hard. And I wanted to, okay, so I'm doing like one session every 2 3 weeks, let's try one per week. And I was like seeing my bar, just my load just improve, and I was like, oh, I love that. Let's try to do 2 sessions a week and just see that how much effort I was putting into it just correlate to how much load. That was like super nice for me. So I started training when I was even like 8 to 9 years old. Is I might have started before that. Like I remember I have photos of me with like at that time it wasn't popular for kids to train into weightlifting, so it wasn't like nice bars, like nice 5 kilos bars and things like that. It was just like a straight bar of metal, like just a rod that I was training with.
Right.
So yeah, just learning the movements. And my dad was smart. Like his philosophy basically was, okay, you can come train, but my goal is that you will never get injured until you're 18 years old. And I
Mm,
was like, okay, so let's go through it. And at that time, I was not understanding. And yeah, his philosophy was really like, if I can train you the right way so you don't get injured until you're 18 years old, after that, you're going to be able to push so hard and do like crazy amount of load and volume, and you're going to be basically unbreakable. And I feel that right now. I look like at the volume I do, I look at the load per week that I do, and I'm like, wow, this is like amazing. And I feel like it's very just because like I started so young and
mm,
my body went through that adaptive phase like for so long that right now like I always train almost injury free. Like it's very, very rare
mm,
that I have a big injury, just like some normal things here and there. But I feel like very, very grateful for my dad to just like have think that way, not think about like, let's push you at 11 years old. So you're going to do records at back squat or whatever. He was always like conservative and being like, okay, now it's going to be for the next session, the next month, the next year, you're going to do that squat. For today, that is enough. And so it was very, very conservative. And I think that is why I'm 24. I never got like an operation, never got like a real serious injury. And I'm like at the top of my sport right now. So I'm very,
mm.
very grateful. So that is how I got started. And he retired from weightlifting, from coaching weightlifting like in 2016. So I started to do my own things from 2016 to 2019. I was doing like my own programs. I was training uh, almost alone. Like I was training with CrossFitters in a CrossFit gym. So I was training there. 2019, I moved from my original my region, which is Abitibi-Témiscamingue. I just say that so if someone is from there, they're gonna be happy. I know that English people in general don't know what that is, but that is where I was born and raised. So I moved from there to Montreal in 2019, starting working with GP Jean Patrick from 2019 to summer of 2022, and now I'm with. I just moved. It's been almost a year already, but training with Jocelyn. So I'm training right
Mm.
now. I'm still. It's on the South Shore of Montreal, but that is like my general parkour.
Express the passion that defines you. At Virus, we understand that when it comes to performance, the slightest edge can mean the difference between winning and losing. Each product is designed and tested with performance in mind. This principle inspired the technology that is infused into our apparel. Built with the intention to move with you and work for you, we create tools meant to help express the passion that defines you. The future of technology-driven apparel. Improve performance, prevent fatigue, recover faster, and go further. Virus is a proud sponsor of Josh Gibson and the Philosophical Weightlifting Podcast. Use code PHILWL for 10% off at checkout. That's PHILWL, PHILWL, for 10% off.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think one of the questions that like always stems from hearing someone mention doing a single pursuit for over a decade, right? 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And you've kind of mentioned like what that kind of hunger is that you have to keep putting weight on the bar and keep seeing what you can lift and what you can achieve. But
Yeah.
what's a lot, and you talked about like having your dad kind of bring you up with this like conservative enough approach that you never really got exposed to training that would cause significant injury.
Yeah.
Um, so it sounds like you had the recipe for like long-term development, but what
Mm-hmm.
kept you going, or what's keep kept you going for, the first 5, 10, 15 years? Because obviously you didn't start, you started where everyone starts, which I think is the
Mm-hmm.
coolest thing about it, is you started with a barbell and learning the lifts and trying to get the technique down. But like,
Yeah.
what's kept you with it over that amount of time, where you obviously haven't just always improved and always hit PRs every single competition and
No,
always
yeah.
been better and better and better. Like there have probably been plenty of setbacks and plenty of hard periods. So what's kept you going through those?
Yeah, I think that's where I was going, like previously with my fire inside of me.
Mm,
I think it was just an obsession. Like I think we were talking in the just before we were starting recording this, like the CT Fletcher, like my magnificent obsession. So I was
mm.
just obsessed, and I'm still just obsessed. Like I have spasm like before going to sleep, like of me doing pulls because just I'm thinking about like my pulls, and it's been freaking like 15 years that I've been doing this, and I'm still dreaming about like, okay, so what is the feeling of like a snatch pull? So it's crazy, but like yeah, I'm just obsessed with lifting heavy and heavier, and that is my goal. Like my goal is not to go to the Olympics, which is like
Mm.
kind of related. If I lift heavier, I'm gonna go to the Olympics. But
Yeah.
after 2021, I realized that I was not sad that much to not go to the Olympics, even though like my coach, like GP went, and the two girls, Christelle and Maude, that we were training as a group. Like Maude was training in Rimouski, but Christelle and I have been uh, training together since 2019, since I moved to Montreal.
Mm.
But I was not that sad not to go to Tokyo. I was scared of the disappointment that I was giving people because I'm from a small region. Again, Abitibi-Témiscamingue. Like people there are so supportive. Like every time I go in the competition, every time I go back to see my parents and I go to a grocery store. People are like, "Oh, we're so proud of you. It's so nice what you're doing." Like there's so little high level athletes over there that I feel people really are very supportive of what I'm doing, and I'm so grateful for that. And I was so sad to just like write my little message on Facebook or Instagram, just to write just I'm sorry guys I didn't make it, to call my parents, to write a message to my close friends, to just like I didn't make the cut for Tokyo.
Mm.
So after Tokyo I was like, why am I doing this? Like I wasn't even sad for me not to go to the biggest competition in weightlifting. I was sad like for other people. So I just kind of like took a moment to reflect and think about like why am I doing this? And I just realized that it always been it always been me against me. I know it sounds like kind of exoteric, but it's always been like how much can I lift? And I feel like right now I am having like the most fun I have in so long in training and in competition, just because I went back to that mentality. Like
Mm.
I'm not going into a competition. Like I know I've said that before, that I went at Pan Am's for medal, but that was secondary. I was going to Pan Am's to beat whatever I did at Worlds. I was going to
Mm.
Worlds to beat whatever I did at provincials. So it's always been, and I think it always be, me against me, and how can I beat Alex? Like how can I beat the total that he did last time? And I
Mm.
think that helps me to keep going into like hard trainings, and to keep me from doing like I'm doing like currently we're trying just a little like uh context thing. We're doing like 10 session a week for as long as we can, like my
Mm.
coach and I. So I think, and it's very hard. Like it's basically like 2 sessions a day, 5 days a week, or I do like one on Thursday and one on Saturday. But it's freaking hard, like to do all the stuff I have in my life and to do the 10 sessions. But I feel like I find the energy to do it just because I know that the Alex that did 66 at Snatch at Pan Am's did that. So if I'm going down to 8 session, I won't be able to beat that guy. So it's just like very me against me in my head, and
Mm.
I think that is how I kept going. The Even like if I had like a super good competition growing up or a very bad competition, it was always like, okay, let's go back to the whiteboard and just figure out like what we can do to either do even better than we did, or to change some things up so that I don't fuck up again a competition. So it's always been like a very very clear game of like there's always something to improve. Let's improve that and do better at next competition, better and better and better. And I think the good side of starting so young is that when you start like at I don't know 15 years old, you already have like some kind of strength, so you don't go through the all the little steps to go to snatch, let's say 100 kilo. But when you
Mhm.
start, when you're 8, like it's a very big deal to snatch like 30 kilo. And when you're
Yeah.
9, it's a very big deal to snatch 40 kilo. So yeah, it just kept every year improving, even though like I have bad meets and good meets. But like I went from the little weight and I PR'd all the way to 166. So to me,
Wow.
like it felt very motivating because every year I had this goal of just like doing more and doing more. So I feel like that is the fire that I was trying to talk about with like my magnificent obsession. Let's say like CT Fletcher would say, but it's just like keep improving, keep finding a little thing here and there just to 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 be the previous Alex, the previous version of myself.
Yeah, and knowing that after having spent 15 years competing and training and weightlifting, um, you've probably accumulated a lot of really great memories and really tough memories too, right? Like memories
Yeah.
of where you felt like you weren't quite able to, you know, I guess like the one you just mentioned, right, with not making the Olympics and then having to break
Hmm.
that to people. Looking back over this much of your career as of now, what are the accomplishments or the moments maybe that stick out as like the most meaningful, um that like kind of when you look back on 15 years, I'm sure you don't look back on every single training day and think about it. You look back on kind of some very special moments or competitions or interactions with people, and those are kind of like what makes it so rich, right?
Yeah.
So what are those moments?
Um, there are few competitions that say, like I think I have two in mind right now. Like the one was Junior Worlds 2017 in Tokyo,
Mm,
which was the first time I snatched 150. I had like such a good year that year. Just like I think I went from 140 in January, 140, 141, something like that, to like 150 in June, which
wow.
was huge. And like in the 77, like I think I was still 18 at that time. I was about to turn 19, but I remember the feeling of that 150 felt incredible. It's been like 6 years, and I think I still think about that moment as one of the proudest I've been of myself. And I think the second one would be 2021 Senior Worlds, which I had to hit like a big 350 PR total to have my funding for 2022, and I did it. Like it was almost impossible, honestly. Like I cannot like put emphasis enough on how of a long reach that was. Like my best
Mm,
total in competition was 337 as an 81 though, but I went up a weight class and I had to do like a 13 kilo PR total. And it was like we tried that like a couple times, like 2 3 times, and it was not even remotely close. And I just went into Worlds with the confidence, doing my warm up, as I said before, like 6 to 8 times, and I was just like focused on I have to do that, I have to do that, and I did it. And it was like I think the funny thing about that one is usually like when they film the warm-up room you cannot hear what people are saying, but I don't know
yeah.
why at that one you could hear what people were saying. So I was like I think I cried on the platform that day after eating. I think I did 160 161 and 189, and when I did my
Mm.
189 I went back and like I was having like a tear, and I was after that I was just like giggling about because when I celebrate, I kind of just raise my arms in the air, like yeah. And I was giggling because we were seeing myself on the big screen with like Braden Kennedy and David Ogle, which were like in the same session. I was like, look, I have big biceps or things like that, but not knowing that people could hear me on the live stream, and I still had like an attempt left, so it was just like a very good memory of me just doing like a huge PR and being like still saying like silly things as I always
Yeah.
say, like, oh look, I have big biceps on the screen. And afterwards I had so many messages from my friends being like, yeah, you had big biceps. And I was like, what? Like how do you know that? And then I went back and look at the live stream and you could hear myself say, I have big biceps on the screen.
Wow.
So yeah, that is a very good memory, but it's always it's normally I don't remember my numbers. I do remember my numbers. That is false because I really have a good memories for numbers. But what I remember the most is people that I've trained with,
Mm.
people that I laughed with, because people that know me well just know that I'm always saying shit in training. I'm always like giggling around, and being like, it's my nickname is the golden retriever of weightlifting, and it's not for
Uh,
nothing. Like I always like go to people and joke around, even though I think the more stressed I am, the more giggling I do. So it just
yeah,
get worse when we're going into competition. But those moments, those laughs that we have, those insights that we have, it's even more important to me, just more than the competition. Just it sticks in my head even more than the numbers I did, or the joy I had doing my PR, or the deception I had missing the lift. So I think that is what I'm gonna bring in my life afterwards. Like not the numbers I did at what competition I did like in the last 15 years.
yeah. And I imagine having the nickname the golden retriever of weightlifting is really unique. Do you remember when someone called you that for the first time?
Yeah, it was kind of recently. It was Pan Am 2022 in
Yeah.
Bogota. Yeah, like before my nickname was Captain Canada, because I had this
Mm.
I don't remember the company, Shapeshifter, I think, something like
Oh
that. It
yeah.
was
Yeah.
I saw that for the first time. I think it was Kendrick Jafferis and Derek Johnson, who had like
Yeah.
those
Yep.
nice suits. So I reached out to them and being like, "Oh, I want a suit too." So I had like this. It was kind of the Canadian flag with the maple leaf on the
Yeah.
torso.
It's
So I really
badass.
looked like, yeah. I mean, it was cool for like growing up. But
Yeah.
after a while, I was like, it's kind of weird how Captain America is like the top superhero and Captain Canada is in the group C, like of Walt.
Yeah.
So I was like, actually, I should change that. So I changed that to just a normal suit, normal virus suit, and I think it was it was Pan Am 2022, which I don't know if I was stressed or, but it was even worse than usual, the giggling. So I remember it was either Stu from YKS
Yeah.
or Well. So I was just, they were trying to film like a nice video of me, and I was putting the block of chalk in my hand, and instead of like sliding it on my hand like you normally do, I was
Yeah.
tapping it on my hand. And I was like, I don't know how to do that. Normally, it's my coach who does that. And but very
Yeah.
seriously, and he just looked at me like, "Is that guy very that dumb?" And I was like, "Just no, it's a joke." And then I put the chalk in, and it was just nonstop giggling like that, and then snatching heavy weights, and they were all so confused about like, who's that guy? Like, who's laughing and then snatching heavy and then laughing and then joking on somebody. So they just started over there like, oh, you're like you have a golden retriever energy, and it just sticks with me.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's so funny. Um, and you mentioned, having a lot of memories at competitions, not so much,
Yeah,
I mean, you remember the numbers, but you remember the moments. And I watched a video, I just watched a video of you kind of warming up with Harrison Morris and Nino Pizzolatto, and Nino is like the guy now. I mean,
yeah,
he's like, I don't think you could make an argument he's the best in the world, one of the best in the world, and
hmm,
Harrison Morris at the time, I mean, was the best in the United States and one of the best
yeah,
in the world.
yeah.
And you're competing with those guys, and you're kind of going, warm up for warm up with them. Who were some of the guys you really enjoy sharing a competition platform with? Like when you go to a meet, who are you looking forward to competing with and sharing a platform with?
Oh, that's a great question. Um, I normally don't have that kind of reflection going into a competition. Like I know that normally the people I want to see are the Canadian team, because like we
Hmm.
train so far. Like Braden is one of the guy that I like the most hanging around with. Like he's always so calm, and his joke are like super good. David, like I've mentioned him before, is always like super fun. So
Hmm.
it's rare that I think about like other country like people that I want to compete with. I'm sad that right now it's kind of weird mentioning Liu Zhaojing just because he got popped for
Yeah.
EPO, which doesn't make sense. But that was somebody that I looked like. I remember in, I think it was in 2013, he's 176 at
Mm.
snatch in Poland at Worlds. Like I remember seeing that in the YouTube videos, and that was kind of the, was not the beginning of YouTube, but that was the beginning of
Yeah.
just like having easily access to weightlifting videos, and not having to type like weird stuff to find like a old clock up video.
Yeah.
So I remember looking at that snatch so many times, and it was like the goat at that time. Yeah. he was the GOAT, and I was sad not to never share a platform with him.
Mm,
Just like I was kind of close. Like I think I might have done like a B group, and he was in the E group. But I was sad. That was someone I would have loved just for the memory, just to tell my best friend that, hey, I share a platform with Lou. But I realize now that just I've shared platform with like the best in the world basically.
yeah.
So it's not like it would have done a big difference to share a platform with Lou. It's just like a memory, a child memory, that I would have loved to try, almost a dream to share a platform with that guy that I was looking at YouTube when I was like 14, 15 years old.
No, and I completely get that because, I came up. So I mentioned that I've been in weightlifting for like 8, 9 years now. So when I came up on weightlifting on YouTube, it was John North and Attitude Nation and
Yeah.
Call Strength. And I think it was last year, or maybe it was the year before. It was like a year ago, roughly. I was at my one of my good buddy, Michael Horner. I was at his wedding, and John North was in the. He was one of the best men, and I got this
Wow.
picture with John, and I'm like, oh, this is like a really surreal moment. I'm with John North, this guy. I got into weightlifting watching John on a bunch of different videos and kind of following his podcast and his content, his journey,
Yeah.
and here I am, kind of at a wedding with him, and I've like talked to him before and been on his podcast and stuff, so that's been pretty surreal. But I can see where you're coming from, where it's like it's not that he's necessarily your idol, like you like worship him, but it's like this guy's been around, he's done a tremendous amount, he's been one of the most influential figures, and that's what
Yeah.
Lou was. I don't know if he is that now. I'm sure he kind of will be to some extent, but like Lou was maybe the most recognizable name,
Yeah.
and this is going to sound weird, but maybe one of the most recognizable bodies in weightlifting, um
Yeah.
and like one of the best. So I could
Hmm.
imagine, like, that would have been a really cool moment. um
Yeah.
do you have anything left in weightlifting like that you want to do besides kind of just beating the performance you did, at Pan Am's, going out and snatching 167 the next time, or 168 or 170? Is there
Hmm.
anything besides that you want to accomplish?
Uh, it's a good question. Like it's weird because I don't realize what I'm doing, honestly. Like
Mm,
I've said that many times to people around me, just like to me what I'm doing is normal, and I know that
yeah,
it's not normal, but like in my head, just to keep my feet on the ground. I don't know if that is an expression in English, but just not go like and having a big head.
right.
Just like to me it's normal. So I don't realize, I think, and I think I realized that after I retired, that I've been on the national team for 7 years, that I have like
Mm,
I don't even know how many Kenyan record I have right now. I don't even know how many like international medals I have, like titles and all. So just to me, like it's all part of a normal thing, that I just the difference between like me and the guy that I'm training aside with in the
mm,
gym is just like I've been doing this for 15 years. I've been doing this for 5. So like I know that it doesn't work like that. I know that it's not because you train 15 years that you're gonna snatch 166. It's not that easy. But in my head, it's just like the comparison I'm doing. So,
mm,
but like realistically, if I'm looking at my career, like I said, I have like quite a few international medals. I have like many Kenyan records. I've done like I think I've count last competition or last year I had like 30 plus like travel to competition and training camp all around the world.
wow.
So it's just like it's crazy to think right now all I've accomplished. But I'm trying not to look at all of that. I'm trying to look like forward, just to keep like the
Mm,
motivation and keep the because like I said, I know it's been like a few times I've mentioned it, the fire, but it's a fear that I have that the fire is never gonna stop and I'm just gonna burn out. But it's a fear that I have too, that the fire is gonna extinct too soon. Like what
mm,
happens if like I do a really like I do like let's say a 170 200 like performance at the next senior worlds and the fire extinct, and I'm like,
yeah.
no, I need you to qualify for the Olympic Games. So that is a fear in both senses. Like I don't want it to I want it to stop one day because like I cannot live forever like that, never being like very proud of what I'm doing and never looking back, because I've done nice things, but I don't want it to extend too soon too. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
That's
know.
like that's a great way to describe like your situation. Like I completely understand it. And I think that's a great way to describe most things we experience in life that are kind of like what I would call open-ended. Or it's like
Yeah.
you start something, right? It can be a job, it can be a hobby, it can be a passion project, it can be a
Hmm.
relationship, it can be so many things. And in the moment you like appreciate it, you love it, it's everything. And like the fear is never like the fear is like what happens if I lose it, as in it
Yeah.
stops, or what happens if like I can't stop it and I like
Exactly.
overstay my welcome, so to speak. I think that's like a really interesting perspective to share, and I'm sure a
Hmm.
ton of listeners can relate. I can definitely relate, and I've had that thought a lot too, especially when you're looking down. And I imagine I almost wonder if this is how you felt after Tokyo, when you're looking down the barrel of, well, I have another like 2, 3, 4 years until the next Olympics. That means if that's something I would consider or want to try to get to or to achieve, that's years of a commitment.
Yeah.
And that's a process that when you start to invest yourself in it, you feel like there's no, I mean, you can obviously stop whenever you want. That's the great thing about it, but it feels like,
Hmm.
well, I won't be able to stop. Like once I
Yeah.
commit to it, I need to see it through. And
Hmm.
that in and of itself is very scary, because what if that fire extinguishes in
Before
the
it
middle of it?
ends.
Or
Yeah.
yeah. Or what if, what if you miss again and it's like another 4 years and you're like, well, let's see if
Hmm.
we can do it. And then you're kind of on your way out because suddenly, you're almost 30, you've got a bunch of injuries, say, and it's like my
Yeah.
performance is never going to be the same. So I think
Yeah.
that's like a scary thought when you have that long-term vision of the next 4 years, which is what like most Olympic athletes look at as like the next quad
Yeah.
of a commitment and a lifestyle and a mindset and something that's to some extent like inescapable.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one way to not stress about that is like I've been working with a psychologist since like 2018, something like
Mm.
that. Shout out to Caroline. I'm sure there's no way she's gonna listen to that, but anyway, like, and a way I feel better about that than I
Mm.
was like in 2018 is just like I'm not only a weightlifter. Like
Mm.
we talk about with her, we talk with spheres. So I have multiple spheres in my life, and right now the weightlifting spheres is big. Like, and I want it to be big. But there's Alex who's studying kinesiology. There's Alex who likes to say random shit to random people and like and makes them laugh. And so there are multiple spheres, and
Mm.
I think the way to not feel anxious about this fear of weightlifting ending, is just knowing that I am something else. That
Mm.
with the day that I'm gonna retire as a weightlifter, I'm still gonna enjoy training. I've been doing this my whole life, so for sure I'm gonna continue training. Like not at that level. Maybe I'll start doing like weird sports like polo or things like that. But I'm not sure I'm that. I'll do polo, but like you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
I'll keep being a kinesiologist. I'll keep being like a gentleman. I'll keep like being the uncle of my nephews. Like
Mm.
all those fears, all those things makes it worth it to put all into weightlifting, but makes it less scary whenever it's gonna end, because I'm not only a weightlifter.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. And my buddy, so Seb Ostrovich, I'm sure you're
Hmm.
familiar with him from Weightlifting House.
Yeah.
Like, I was going through something, and I remember he mentioned, he's like, hey, if it works out, you'll be okay, and if it doesn't work out, just remember you'll be okay too. And it's like
Yeah.
that perspective or that mindset of like, it feels like the end of the world, but you'll be okay and you'll figure it out. And if it goes perfectly, like you'll be okay too. So on
Hmm.
either end, you can expect that, you're adaptable, even in the face of like uncertainty and difficulty and failure, like you'll
Yeah.
figure it out. And I think that perspective is really helpful to have. And I think another one that actually I've been seeing a therapist too, and one thing that he mentioned to me, and I think one thing that's important to keep in mind is that when you're doing something really life changing or really frightening, initially, and this is kind of like a general concept, like initially is when it's always going to be the most overwhelming. Like when it's about to happen or when it happens is always when it's going to feel the
Yes,
biggest. So, and I tell people this in competition just to tie this into strength sports. It's like the first attempt snatch or the first attempt squat and powerlifting, like the first play in a game, like that's the hardest part, just because like all of that buildup is leading to that moment. And then once you're in the game, once you're in the competition, once you're in that kind of like flow of it happening,
yeah,
everything kind of relaxes a bit, and you can then kind of access that like competitor mindset, or you can feel more comfortable and you can feel more confident. And I think
exactly.
that's with every big change is there's that first attempt, um, that you have to get over. And if you can just like acknowledge that it's there and it's not going to leave and it's never going to leave, it's
Mm,
funny you actually mentioned getting really really nervous before competitions like Pan Am's, because people might think or might say like, well, you've been doing this for 15 years, like why are you nervous? And it's like, well, the stakes have only gotten higher, and the probability of you doing better and better gets smaller the longer you do it, because you're
yeah,
reaching more at your limit. So
yeah,
if anything, it's like it's more predictable, but it's more unpredictable. It's like, am I going to be the best version of Alex we've ever seen,
hmm,
after 15 years of weightlifting? And it's like, I mean, you were able to answer yes to that, but I don't think that can always be confidently answered.
no, exactly. Yeah, yeah. It's funny because it's the first time I had like this conversation a couple times with friends, and it's the first time that people have told me, "You look so confident going into the
Mm.
stage, and you look like you're not stressed at all." I'm like, "Wow! If you knew that how I was feeling going into that stage, like I'm so scared of like I have
Yeah.
so much pressure on it." But I feel like it's just a mentality of I used to shout again to Caroline, but
Mm.
I used to see the competition as the process of I'm climbing a mountain, and the
Mm.
competition is at the top of the mountain, and then I'm just jumping in parachute. So
Oh,
like the
interesting.
whole stage is just like, okay, so we're gonna do volume, then specific movements, then intensity, and now I'm at the top, and then I'm ready for the big jump, and I don't know what's gonna happen. And with my therapist, we've worked to see that more as a racing
Mm.
horse. Like
Yeah.
you're in the cage and you cannot wait for that gate to open to
Mm.
give everything you have. And that way, I feel like the image is that you have more confidence, you have more control over it. It's not just random that you jump and you don't know what's going to happen. So I feel like that is a really clear and very nice image to have. Is you're a racing horse, you've been prepared for this, you're ready, and you're hungry, like you have that hunger. You just can't wait for that gate to finally open and just run the race that you have to run. So that is something to keep in mind. I always have like those rituals too that like I feel like I have not more and more, but I'm more stressed if I'm not doing those, just because the stakes are higher when you're at
Mm.
the international stage and when you're at provincials. But one of them that I know, Mo Charon is the gold medalist at Tokyo is in the 64. That
Mm.
that is, I mentioned her before. And one thing that makes her laugh all the time is before almost every comp, I watch Kung Fu Panda, like the first one, just
Yeah.
because it's about self believing, and I'm
Oh,
like
interesting.
even though like it's someone, I think someone who was doing diving or something like that told me that one day that I'm watching Kung Fu Panda before every comp because it's self believing, and the next time you're gonna see it, you're gonna see the relation between like, or that you could apply it to sport, that you could apply it to competition, that even though you don't look like someone who's gonna achieve something, like if you believe in yourself and you could be the dragon warrior or something like that.
Oh,
That
interesting.
is a funny ritual that I have. I'm always watching the Kung Fu Panda one before comp. So I think you just, as I was saying before, you just rephrase, you reframe the way you think. You feel excitement instead of nerve. You find things that makes you laugh or makes you feel in the right zone, like watching Kung Fu Panda, like reading a good book. I feel all those things together makes you, because I won't say it's easy to get in shape, to get in
Mm,
physical shape for competition, but like it's way easier than being prepared mentally. That's
mm,
on my side, that is for sure, because it's easy on the math side. It's mathematics. You
mm,
do those sets, you try not to get injured, you do that kind of volume, you go through sets of 5, sets of 4, sets of 3, sets of 2, sets of 1, and then you peak. It's kind of like, if you just go down to the basics, physically it's way easier than mentally to prepare an athlete. But mentally, like, it's so difficult to know even ourselves what we're thinking, and so it's harder to know what the other people is thinking. So just find those ways of reframing how you think, reframing how you feel, reframing the image you have in your head before you're going to come. I feel like that's one thing that for me, I always been scared, and now I'm excited, but I've always been nervous since like 15 years ago, and
mm.
I feel like I'm still gonna be nervous like in 2, 3, 4 years, or how many years I have left in my career.
Wow. Yeah, that was really insightful. I wonder how many people now listening to this are going to watch Kung Fu Panda
I hope so.
before the
Tag me in
next
your story
competition.
if you're listening
Yeah.
to Kung Fu Panda. I want it to be a ritual for everybody, so I'm not alone anymore.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I would love to see that start as a trend. And then yeah, it's actually funny you say that. Like with training, I think those are the two big things, right? It's like if you can just not get injured, you can do the right amount of work and not like overreach yourself or
Mhm.
overextend yourself. It really is. I mean it's hard, but it's like you do the work, you get a result. Is it enough work? Is it the right work? If it's not, you
Yeah.
like change that.
Hmm.
So it's much more like it feels much more like a kind of like a machine, or it's like you said, it's
Yeah.
mathematical or more mechanical. Whereas like having the mindset that can allow you to apply it or apply it in competition can be much more challenging. So
Yeah.
um,
Exactly.
that's really insightful. And you know, kind of this conversation flew by, and I'd hate to end it without kind of touching on those other spheres that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Um, what else are you doing kind of outside of weightlifting? You mentioned kinesiology. Is that something you're currently studying, or you did study?
Yeah, I'm almost done with my kinesiology degree. I'm gonna be done in December 2023. So I have like, right now, like tomorrow and Thursday is the end of my winter semester, and then
Mm,
I'm having a summer semester, then a fall semester, and I'll be done.
wow.
Other than that, like, it's a funny thing because after Tokyo, after I knew that I wasn't going to Tokyo, I just took like a week or two off and just went to see my parents. And like, we just cut some trees because like my parents are living in the forest, so we had to take down some trees. And just like the it was kind of sketchy, like the way we did it. So just the fear of that just reframed myself to, okay,
Mm.
it's not that bad that I'm not going to Tokyo. I'm just like, I've been so scared of dying today because I was getting almost hit by trees,
Right.
that I was just like, okay, it's fine. So all of that to say, other patients I have, I'm a handyman, so I just like renovate my apartment. I go see my parents. I do project with my dad, just like cutting some wood and like having my hammer and hitting nails. It's just like I do so much stuff outside of weightlifting, just to change my mind, just
Mm,
to feed those fears so that they don't die, because I
mm,
know I'm gonna use them one day in my life. But for now, like, weightlifting is a very big one. Kinesiology is, I'd say, a medium one, because like I'm still studying like full time, and there
mm.
are other spheres like spending time with my pug and with my dog, my pug Alfred,
Yeah.
and like doing sketchy things with my dad. So yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, what do you so after, it's kind of hard to speculate now, and you don't know how long it's going to last, but once weightlifting does kind of start to wind down, after you finish your degree,
Yeah.
what are you looking to do kind of I don't know, like professionally or career-wise, what are you looking to transition into? Do you want to coach full time? Um what does that look like for you?
I would like to, after my bachelor degree, I'd like to do a master's degree in
Mm,
performance, it's called, in the University of Montreal. And so I'd like to work with teams and like do the GPP, general physical preparation, just to help them get prepared. And like I really like the mechanic of just training somebody and getting them in shape, and I really like
Mm,
the athlete mindset. But yes, that is where I would like to go afterwards. I'm not sure if I would. I'm sure I'm gonna stay in the weightlifting spheres, at least as a volunteer, like just to coach, like maybe a high school club, things like that.
mm,
Just because weightlifting gave me so much, I want to re-give it to other people.
yeah.
But I've talked with a few high level athletes that are now retired and that are coaching their sports, and basically all of them told me that it's way harder because especially like I'm the type of athlete that just wants to do more and wants to do more and wants to do more all the time. But when you go coaching and you see somebody who has like more talent than you had or you have, and they don't push as much as
Yeah.
you did, it's kind of like it's it just makes you like, why am I doing this? Like, why
Right.
are you here in the gym, and why am I trying to help you if you don't want to do all the sacrifices? And so I feel like that would be very hard to go into weightlifting as a like trying to do like coach internationally and coach like very big, like coach at the elite level, just because I know that my way of doing things, I see the rest of Team Canada, and I know that my way of seeing things and doing things is not the norm, let's say.
Mm,
So I think it'd be hard to coach another athlete to go, let's say, at the Olympics or at the international level, just because I'm someone who's intense. I'm someone who like, if you say you're gonna do something, I'm gonna do it. So I think
yeah.
it's gonna be hard to coach weightlifting at a high level, but definitely stays imply as a normal coach and just trying to teach them the way of the Dragon Warrior, let's say.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I'm sure people are going to absolutely love this episode. I know I have really enjoyed the chat, and I think it's been a great blend of kind of talking about your story, talking about your perspective, your mindset, your approach, and how all of that's kind of integrated into the sport. And then also, you
Yeah.
integrated into your life. And I think a great perspective for other people who can kind of share that as well. So I
Hmm.
loved it.
Thanks.
Yeah, and for people who are maybe interested in reaching out and like talking to you about the podcast or kind of giving you like some like kudos for the conversation and how great
Yeah.
it was, where can they reach you, and where can they kind of check everything out that you have to offer?
Yeah, the best way is on Instagram. So Alex Bellemarre, all in one word. Bellemarre, two L's, two R's. It's the easiest way to reach me, and I'm very happy to answer everybody. And if you're watching Kung Fu Panda, like I'm gonna answer you even faster than the other one. I'm just saying.
Awesome. Great. Well, for everyone listening, yeah, go follow Alex on Instagram at Alex Belmar. You can follow me at Josh_Phil WL. That's PHILWL. Um, you can support the show by leaving a review. I think it deserves 5 stars, so I would maybe consider that if you're going to. Um, Obviously, you can check out our sponsors, onyxstraps.com, virusintl.com. You can use the code PHILWL, PHILWL at checkout, and save some money and help support the show. I'd go support Weightlifting House, weightlifting.ai, because those guys are great and have done so much to contribute to the show and help me out. So I'd go support them. And until next week, we will catch you guys on another episode of the Philosophical Weightlifting Podcast.